Hello, my name is James Arroyo, and welcome to Chapter 12, Virtual Groups and Social Media. Social media and technology as a whole has fundamentally shaped how we communicate, interpersonally as well as in groups. And this is shown to be no greater way than the increase of virtual groups in organizations and right now in schools. So, we're going to dive into what virtual groups are, what are some of the benefits and challenges, as well as some ways to effectively hold virtual groups. First, what are virtual groups? They are defined by three characteristics. First, members spread across multiple locations. We are no longer bound by geographical location for choosing people to be in our groups. Also, group members often have more diverse backgrounds due to geographical differences. Of course, there's going to be many different diverse backgrounds, which can be a benefit, as we've said countless times, for many groups. And membership tends to be less stable. We have less we have less connection because it is in an online channel. There's less communication happening because a lot of the nonverbal cues are not present, and as a result, we don't tend to identify with groups as well in virtual groups than in face to face. But obviously, there are new technologies that are helping with this. So, there are many different virtual group options. Communication technology is a tool to achieve a communication purpose. So, there are many different options to serve many different purposes. The focus of this discussion remains on the small groups of immediate interest to you as students, but also concerns your present or future employment in the world of business. In business, there is a bigger and bigger and bigger push to push offices out and keep virtual groups in. It saves money for especially a lot of tech companies are really pushing to try to have virtual teams to avoid office space and to allow for people not having to come to Palo Alto or California and spend all their money on a house. So there are four key virtual group options. First, text messaging. Email remains the principal method of communication in organizations. However, text messaging and instant messaging can keep team members in constant contact to assist collaboration on projects, create and perpetuate a positive supportive climate, or even prevent potential conflict episodes. I mean, so email is still incredibly prevalent, but text messaging has a lot of and instant messaging has a lot of benefits that can help remove a lot of challenges. We also have audio conferencing, which is voice only communication. This is not simply a phone call, this is a group conversation with just audio. And now we have the very last video conferencing. And this has been a bigger and bigger part of virtual groups. This has a lot of the benefits of the nonverbal communication, as well as the synchronicity that when I send a message, you automatically receive it. So there's a great deal of benefit with video conferencing. So there's many benefits and challenges associated with virtual groups. One of the big benefits is that of time and space. That there is no that you can be in a group with someone from across the world and be able to communicate with them almost instantaneously, which is an incredible benefit to groups, especially when creative problem solving comes into play due to much greater diversity in virtual groups. We also have decision making, and this is where it gets a little bit mixed because virtual groups perform worse reach less accurate decisions, are less efficient, communicate less, share less knowledge, take longer to complete tasks, are less likely to agree, and are less satisfied than face-to-face groups. But in that very same study with that same sample, the virtual groups were largely successful at achieving their objectives, earning revenues for their companies, saving production cost time, pleasing customers and managers alike, and engaging in collaborative decision making. So there are contradictory results, and there's many reasons for these contradictory results. In that same study, they were using like samples of like students who were just working in a small for like an hour, and this shows a much bigger need for in practice studies. That's very interesting because there's probably a great opportunity of people being forced to online channels, to forced into being virtual groups. There are also decision-making delays, and this is a big detriment associated with virtual groups. Text-only electronic communication, for example, may slow decision-making if delays occur because group members haven't checked their email or bulletin board and don't respond immediately for whatever reason. Have you ever experienced a time when you sent out a message and for some reason the other person just doesn't respond for a day, for 2 days, for 5 days? That is a challenge associated with virtual communication because someone cannot get away with that in person. Hey, would you like to get pizza later? Doesn't really work. Also, we have mechanical friction, which can also be a big challenge of virtual groups. Mechanical friction is frustration and annoyance with learning elaborate new technologies. This has been a big challenge for many people going from in person to online groups because there's new technology to know and little hiccups within that technology that can create a great deal of challenge. Student groups are advised to keep it simple to lower potential frustration working with technology because if every student has to learn 5 or 6 or 10 different virtual systems, then that can overwhelm someone and make it harder for them to actually be a contributing member to a virtual group. There's also social relationships, and virtual groups seem to require more time than face-to-face groups to develop positive social relationships and cohesiveness. There's many reasons for this. One of these big ones is that in virtual groups, there's less richness, there's less meaning behind our messages through text, and as a result, we don't learn as much from someone else. Also, because since we have more ability to moderate and we have more control over the messages that we send in virtual groups, then it is less disclosive. We disclose less about ourselves through fabricated messages. We also have power difference. Power difference is one of those ones that actually can have some slight benefits of virtual groups. Power differences may be less prominent in virtual groups, and because they are less prominent, therefore people can be more likely to communicate and be less affected and inhibited by perceived power differences. There are two types of status characteristics that are hidden from text-only communication: physical characteristics such as ethnicity and age, as well as communication cues such as rapid speaking rate, fluency, etc. So let's talk about some of those power indicators. We have verbal and nonverbal indicators, things that communicate power. And a lot of those are removed with text-only communication. However, more mature groups typically develop status markers even when restricted in text-only communication. We are very good at understanding and creating meaning for ourselves. And conversely, grammatical errors and misspellings, especially if they occur often and in numerous messages, may taint a group member's as poorly educated, careless, and unconcerned about credibility with other groups members. So, in other words, all of these things can diminish our power status. All of which to say, grammar and spelling is important. Now that we've talked about let's continue, I guess, with with one of the big challenges of virtual groups, and this comes with conflict. Conflict is a lot more challenging to engage with through through virtual groups. Virtual groups experience more task and relationship conflict than face-to-face groups do. Also, they are more likely to move in the direction of destructive conflict than are face-to-face groups. In the same way, communication filters that operate in face-to-face communication to remove or short circuit or stop emotional incontinence are less apparent when communicating electronically. So there are many big challenges associated with virtual groups. Another one, differences that emerge from virtual group membership representing several diverse cultures can also lead to misunderstandings and even perceived insults, since there are many diverse people and there is less ability to communicate more messages than in face to face, it of course is going to be more challenging. Where we may have more misunderstandings and then, as a result, perceived insults. Text. So, in general, there are many challenges associated with conflict in virtual groups. This is very much present in having a conflict through text. That tends to not make things go well. And a big reason for that is because a lot of the nonverbal is gone. And as a result, a lot of the message is lost. So having conflict is better in face-to-face situations. The only exception to this is that text-only communication may be appropriate when face-to-face communication among members has a history of being awkward or intimidating. So there are possible opportunities to use the benefit of a text-only communication to try to remove some of the awkwardness or anxiety associated with talking with people of different power. So, how do we improve group effectiveness? There's many ways that we can do this. First, team identification. This can help connect groups. Team identification is especially important in virtual groups. Enriching virtual groups in group environment is especially important during the initial stages of group development, and social media can be of great assistance. By having those social connections in your groups, it can allow for a lot of the challenges to be washed away because you have some connection to the group. And this can happen through even a face-to-face, virtual face-to-face messaging can help create some connections within a group. Also, we have media richness theory. This posits that communication media vary along a continuum of richness. Richness being the information carrying capacity of each form of communication. So, if a channel has a great deal of information carrying capacity, like um, face to like Zoom or um, I guess Zoom, then that, of course, would be considered rich by this theory, whereas text or email wouldn't be as rich because not a lot of the message can be communicated through that channel. Despite the intuitive appeal of media richness theory, supporting it has been a bit mixed because it creates this sort of idea that this is a rich channel, this is a poor channel. And that really defeats the purpose because there are many different types of channels, and some channels can be very good for certain things. Some channels can be very poor for certain things. Media synchronicity theory, this extends media richness theory. It extends it by providing a dynamic, time-changing quality of the richness of each communication medium. In other words, it focuses on the best, focuses on, the richness of a communication channel is determined by how well it fits the needs of the virtual group. So there are some groups that may benefit from a text-only channel, and that would be the best for them, whereas some may be more benefited through a face-to-face, even through Zoom channel. Media synchronicity theory is appealing and potentially insightful, but there should be more research on it. One study reveals that the choice of communication technology when diversity issues are involved can be quite complex because with diverse people, diverse groups call for different richnesses, different types of communication within channels. So, how to one last there are some other specific suggestions for virtual group effectiveness. When choosing our media, we should focus on richness and synchronicity. So, how much information can this um, medium hold or this channel hold? Also, how synchronous it is. Synchronous being that as soon as I communicate it is as soon as you hear it, or asynchronous where I send the message and then you can maybe receive it days, weeks after I've sent that message. Then we also have virtual group meetings. And as we've said, there are many challenges of meetings in general, but virtual meetings create a lot of special challenges. So when choosing, and there are many guidelines for navigating this challenging situation. First, choose the appropriate technology for the meeting. Sometimes it might be best handled in a discussion board. Sometimes this virtual meeting could be handled in an email. So there are those sorts of, so we have to be sure we're choosing the appropriate technology. Also limit the size of the group because we want each person to be able to offer substance to the group meeting. Also plan for scheduling difficulties so that everyone is able to be there. Check all technological equipment before each meeting to make sure that everything is in top working order. Murphy's Law, anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible time. So, of course, technological challenges do persist. The next step is to make certain each group member is well versed in technology used to conduct the meeting. That if someone doesn't know how to use the technology, then there may be issues of what do I do, and then that can derail the meeting. And don't multitask during the virtual meeting. That we should be focused on just the virtual meeting and not what awesome thing is going on my phone. And that concludes today's lecture. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful day. Bye!